lot of people talk about paranormal activity in this place. Mostly footsteps, doors slamming, voices, pretty much your typical haunted reports. A lot of people often ask why. Now I'm going to start off by saying there's no way to know exactly who haunts a place or why, to the best of our knowledge. In fact, you can no more prove a haunting than you can disprove one. It's just to investigating the site itself and finding out if anything ever happened there. And in this case, yes, quite a bit did. Took a tragic fall. They found his body a day later lying at the bottom of some debris. The waiter took a spill down the elevator shaft, or the dumbwaiter shaft rather. And then in 1904, there was a waiter who also took a spill out of a window upstairs, landed on the street here in front. They do say that this is haunted, but this is the Ridges in Athens, also said to be very haunted, and the one place you'll all recognize, of course, is Mansfield Reformatory, Mansfield, Ohio. Everyone knows it more famously as the Shawshank Prison. If you've ever seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption. All said to be haunted. The old county jail. A lot of people were executed there. We used to actually do executions here in Cleveland. And he was executed exactly where you're standing right now for murdering two guys that he was acting as a guide for. There were about 9 guys executed over there. Put him on trial for murder, and they hanged him over here across the street. Followed her down to Bedford, pulled out a gun when he saw her on the street, and shot her twice in the head, killed her. They hanged him across the road. He then said, "I also believe in the spirit, and after today's deed is done, I will be with you tonight just as I am today." It scared the heck out of a lot of people. They then hanged the man. Before he was executed, he was a farmer, lived in one of the outlying suburbs. Went out to his barn, and he saw Dr. Hughes wearing exactly what he was wearing on the night of the day of the execution. That night, after the man was seen in his barn, that's when they saw Dr. Hughes arrive at the jail over here. Walk through the corridor, go up the stairs, into his old cell, sit down and start writing, and then he vanished. And something weird in the corner making noises, and suddenly got up and walked through the bars and vanished. Brutally murdered his wife with an axe over in Tremont, over on Starkweather and Scranton. He then, after brutally butchering his wife with an axe, he gets a horse in the buggy, rides over here to downtown, murders his stepdaughter and a friend of hers that she had been staying with. One night, he wakes up to his niece in the next room screaming, comes running into their room, explains that there was a woman standing at the foot of her bed holding a book. She thought it was her aunt, Mrs. Liebengood. Asked her what she was doing there, and then the woman turned her head and it caught the moonlight, revealing this figure in all its grotesqueness. She screamed, jumped out of her bed, ran into her aunt and uncle's bedroom, explained to them what happened. They went and they checked, and of course there was nobody there. Woke up to a woman smacking him in the face. He looked up, saw a woman, thought it was his sister for a moment, then the woman vanished. They'd be done dissecting a cadaver inside the college. They'd wheel it out, open up the vault, dump it in there, throw some lime down on top of it, close it up. Lime was supposed to cut down on noxious gases. Not so much. They rediscovered these, they opened them up. The smell was so bad that they had to kind of evacuate downtown Cleveland for about a quarter-mile radius. You could smell this. And despite the smell, trying to cross over the Grand River near Painesville today. He drowned, along with his horse. Well, they didn't bring the horse, but they brought David Eldridge all the way to Cleveland the next day and buried him at a little cemetery right here where we're standing today, called the Ontario Street Graveyard. They kept the cemetery here until about 1826, at which time it was determined that there was a proper owner to that land. He came to Cleveland and said, "Hey, guess what? I want to build on this. You guys got to get the cemetery out of here." Ghost proof? That's another story. And then he started making complaints to the staff. "I need a new room. My room is haunted." Said that he was seeing, not just in his room, but looking in through his windows and in the hallways outside of his rooms, ghosts, phantom figures following him around. Dead on the floor, half on the bed. He'd taken his own life. Was found naked with a gunshot wound to his head. He said he woke up about 20 minutes to a half an hour later, looked over at the sofa in his room, and there was a beautiful woman in a floral dress, long blonde hair, looks up at him and goes, "Shh." and then vanishes. These guys are in the back, in the harness room, polishing the brass on the harnesses for the horses. It's the 1870s. And they start hearing a moaning coming from the dead room next to them. Thinking that somebody's locked in there, they go up and get Mr. Heifer. Bill Heifer comes back and unlocks it and opens it up, and all that's in there is just the body of them. Have you found the coffin yet? So what do you mean? So, well, there's somebody buried under the chancel in the back of the church. And then she wouldn't say any more, and she left. Guys stopped working. Foreman comes back to the job, says, what are you guys doing? He said, well, some lady came back and said there's somebody buried here. He's like, I don't know anything about that. Get back to work. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. We've been throwing bricks down on a dead guy. Half the crew walked off the job. Never came back. Out of the darkness was a darkness darker than the rest of the darkness moving towards him. As it approached, he could see that it was wearing some form of a woman's hat with a matching gown. He screamed, dropped everything, came running up the ladder, ran out of the ruins, ran across the street, didn't stop till he got to the YMCA building across the road. Harry Street Ghost. The Harry Street Ghost was described as being a colossal phantom measuring upwards of between 10 and 25 feet tall. And that is the actual illustration that was used in the Plain Dealer in 1861 when they described this phantom. Being colossal in stature, they said, well, how could it be one height one day and another height another day? They determined that it can elongate its form to suit its desire. Said it was tall enough to place that pointy hat on the second-story windowsill of a building. Chances were, if you were so sick that you had to be brought to a hospital back in the 1820s and 1830s, chances are you were not coming out upright. You were coming out feet first. So what better place to build such a building than here in a cemetery? It was directly over there, across the driveway in that corner of something else that I should tell you about this. They tore this hospital down in the early 1850s when they established Cleveland City Hospital, which today you know as Metro Health Medical Center, Cleveland Metro General Hospital. But not before we had 3 major cholera outbreaks in Cleveland. One in 1832, another one 2 years later, but the worst of all was 1849. That summer, 1 out of every 3 deaths recorded was from cholera. One of the terrible things about cholera, you guys know anything about this disease, it's highly transmissible. It's traveled through water mostly, but your body shuts down. It's a horrible way to go. Start having organ failure, and you start losing control of your bodily functions, and then you die. Dying from cholera is terrible, but there's a worse way. If you were going to recover from cholera, some people did, a lot of times your body would shut down, or look like it shut down. Your pulse, your respiration dropped to damn near nothing. Guess what? They think you're dead. And when they think you're dead, the first thing that they do is they put you in a coffin. And the first thing they do after that is bury you. Lay you to rest. And about an hour after they've thrown all that dirt on top of you and they've walked away, you think, oh, I'm making a recovery. You start opening your eyes and you can feel your heart beating and you can feel yourself breathing. And then you suddenly realize you're in a new kind of a hell. You're buried alive.
There is so much more to be had on this tour. These are just a few of the creepy and spooky stories that Bill mentions in his tour. His tour is almost 2.5 hours long, so if you want to book a tour, go to the end of the video or in the beginning of the video, and you can find his website, and then you can see and hear all the spooky and creepy stories of downtown Cleveland.